Listen to me, man. JJ McCarthy and Anthony Edwards, they're in the same boat. They're in the same boat. Both of those guys are going to be the face of their franchise. Anthony Edwards already is. JJ McCarthy will be very soon. And listen to me, man. Before I get a lot of pushback, I know that Anthony Edwards has a few years on JJ McCarthy in terms of experience with his franchise. He's done more at the professional level than JJ McCarthy. I understand it. I get it. That's not where I'm going with that. Where I'm going with that is that Anthony Edwards is 23 years old. And after the big cat trade, the Minnesota Timberwolves basically just said, hey, you're the guy. This is your franchise. And sometimes I think that weight is a little bit much for Anthony Edwards. Hence a lot of the troubles he's had in moments in the playoffs. It's a lot of weight to carry, man. That's a lot of weight to carry. JJ McCarthy has not yet had to carry that weight, but UP Nation is going to start this year, man. So I look at direct parallels between JJ McCarthy and Anthony Edwards. JJ McCarthy's 22, Anthony Edwards is 23. JJ McCarthy, 10th overall pick. Anthony Edwards, number 1 overall pick. There's a lot of pressures that comes with that, UP Nation. Anthony Edwards is the cornerstone of the Minnesota Timberwolves organization. JJ McCarthy is going to be looked upon as the cornerstone of the Minnesota Vikings organization. I am a big fan of JJ McCarthy's. I will support JJ McCarthy. I support the move at making him QB1 or at least giving him the opportunity to be QB1. And I know there are some UP Nation listeners out there that said, well, coach, you were entertaining bringing in Aaron Rodgers. And I would say to you that I was in support of being at the table and at least having a conversation about Aaron Rodgers. But my stance was, I think we should move ahead with JJ McCarthy. This whole thing with Anthony Edwards gives you a glimpse and a peek of my concerns about JJ McCarthy. See, when everybody said no to Aaron Rodgers, I think it was an emotional take. I think for the most part, it was an emotional take. For people that said, absolutely not, I don't want to discuss it, I don't want to listen to it, that's an emotional take. That's not a responsible take, in my opinion. It's an emotion because you didn't like him. You didn't like the way he left the Packers. You didn't like what he did with the New York Jets. You don't like that he doesn't come to training camp. You don't like that he has a Netflix documentary. Whatever you don't like about Aaron Rodgers clouded your judgment in terms of at least coming to the table to entertain the possibility of Aaron Rodgers joining the purple. By saying that, I don't think a lot of people realize, I know I did because I said it multiple times on the UP. Go back and check UP Nation. I don't think people realize that if you said no to Aaron Rodgers, you're saying yes to an inexperienced rookie quarterback. I don't care what his credentials are in college, and I don't care what his credentials are at the high school level or what he has ever done. You're saying, I don't want an old first ballot Hall of Famer, toxic Aaron Rodgers. I would rather have the rookie JJ McCarthy, and that's well within your right. But as I have pointed out many times, UP Nation, I've pointed this out many times. Rookie quarterbacks have never shown in the history of the league the ability to be able to lead their team to a ring, to a Super Bowl championship. That's what we're signing up for by saying yes to JJ McCarthy. You may say, well, Even if Aaron Rodgers was our quarterback, that doesn't mean that we would make it to the Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl championship. You may be right about that. But here's the fact that you can't dismiss is that Aaron Rodgers has won a Super Bowl championship, albeit it's been a while. But you can't dismiss the fact that he's won. You can't dismiss the fact that he has a ring. That is fact. So when I signed up to be a supporter of JJ McCarthy, that means I'm going to be a supporter of JJ McCarthy when it's good, and I'm going to be a supporter of JJ McCarthy when it's bad. And this is why I say Minnesota fans, Skull Nation fans, Purple Gang, UP Nation, stay patient with the JJ McCarthy. Look at the venom right now that a guy like Anthony Edwards is getting. Instead of calling him Ant-Man, you've got people calling him Can't-Man because there's been multiple times where he hasn't shown up for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, the parallel that I draw with JJ McCarthy is that he's the franchise guy for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he's 23 years old. And when you're 23, there are just levels to this. Now, I think it's safe to say that Anthony Edwards is a box office superstar for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you could argue that he is the GOAT. I did a podcast on it a long time ago, that he's the GOAT of the Minnesota Timberwolves franchise. At least he's in the conversation. Whether you think it's him or KG, man, I don't know. But you can't argue that he has taken the Minnesota Timberwolves to heights and consistency that the Minnesota Timberwolves have never had under any superstar that they've ever had. You can't argue that. So when I look at a guy like Anthony Edwards, 23 years old, he's gotten to those heights, but now it's the Western Conference Finals. Last year against the Dallas Mavericks, and this year against the OKC Thunder. There are times where he doesn't so-called show up, and there hence Skip Bayless calling him Can't-Man instead of Ant-Man. Because sometimes you look at the greatness that's there during the regular season and you forget that this young man is 23 years old. There's a parallel to this, man, I'm telling you. This is why you got to get ready for JJ McCarthy's rookie year. You've got to get ready for JJ McCarthy to come through these adverse obstacles that he's going to have to go through. I don't think he's going to be terrible his rookie year, but I do think there's going to be periods of the season where he's going to be challenged and face some adversity. And you can't expect short-term or I shouldn't say short-term, but just quick greatness out of the gate. Will he have sprinkles of greatness here and there? Absolutely. There's going to be Sundays, man, where JJ McCarthy takes a three-step drop and he slings it into Justin Jefferson, and it's going to be fantastic to watch. But there's also going to be those moments where he makes a boneheaded play and it might result in a pick six. We, as Minnesota Viking fans and Minnesota fans, we've got to be great in those moments. And we've got to support JJ McCarthy in those moments. See, this is what I don't think a lot of people signed up for. Because now people are looking at a 23-year-old kid in terms of Anthony Edwards to be able to play under all of these adverse circumstances. And I don't know if Anthony Edwards is mature enough yet. Hence his struggles, UP Nation. Don't think that JJ McCarthy, even though a different personality than Anthony Edwards, I mean, Anthony Edwards was on the Olympic teams telling the coaches that the offense should run through him. And last year during the playoffs, he was just like, man, I'm just out to get everybody. Anthony Edwards said he called out Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic last year for the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, he didn't just want the smoke. He was climbing up the chimney to look for smoke. That was Anthony Edwards. JJ McCarthy's a little bit reserved, man. You don't hear these grandioso things coming from JJ McCarthy. He just wants to learn the playbook. He wants to learn all the defensive looks that the defense can throw at him. He's a little bit more of a subdued personality, if you will. but there's still that expectation of greatness. And what's going on with Anthony Edwards, UP Nation, gives you a glimpse into a possible future for JJ McCarthy. There's going to be levels of greatness, but there are also going to be times where he struggles. See, there are levels to this. There are levels to this, UP Nation. There are some really good quarterbacks in the league. Lamar Jackson, man, I think is box office. I'm a fan. He can do it with his arms, he can do it with his legs. But then there's another level to this. There are guys like Pat Mahomes, who's in another stratosphere than Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen, really good quarterbacks, can make plays with his legs and his arms. Big, strong, strapping quarterback. But then there are levels to this, man. There are the Pat Mahomeses and there are the Tom Brady's. There's always levels to this. And you can just look at Ant-Man, and there is Anthony Edwards is a fantastic player. But if you look at a guy like SGA and what he's looking, if you compare those two players side by side, SGA right now, Anthony Edwards is great. This does not demean his greatness, but SGA is in another stratosphere right now than Anthony Edwards. He can get to his spots when he wants. He has a mid-range game. He's got a three-point game. He can get to the basket. No matter what defense the Minnesota Timberwolves throws at him during the playoff, he can respond. It's safe to say that Anthony Edwards is not there. And it's okay to say that. Doesn't degrade him as a player, just means that he's not there yet. JJ McCarthy is going to go through the same thing. The same thing. And we as Minnesota Viking fans and media, content creators, whatever you want, you can't turn on JJ McCarthy in those moments. See, this Anthony Edwards thing gives you a glimpse. It is why I was willing to entertain Aaron Rodgers, because it puts JJ on the shelf for another year and allows him to learn, to get another year under his belt where he can physically practice and not have to go out there and test the waters right away. But the Minnesota Vikings, KOC, Kwesi, and the boys said, no, I think he's ready. Well, he very well may be ready mentally and physically, but there are going to be times where JJ McCarthy is going to look like the rookie that he is. He can't play perfect every game. And in those moments, what are the media and what are the fans going to treat JJ McCarthy like? Like, I think it's safe to say that the Minnesota Timberwolves fans, Minnesota fans, some of you that may be Viking fans, may be Timberwolves fans, I think you still support Anthony Edwards. You just get angry and emotional in the games where he doesn't show up the way that he should. I mean, he only took 13 shots last night, only had 16 points. And he's the guy that the franchise looks forward to. Man, if we gotta, when our backs are up against the wall and we need for you to score 30 or we need for you to score 40, that's what you got to do. Look at SGA last night. He knew that he had to come out and score 40 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that's what he did. Dude, there's a direct parallel. This is why the Anthony Edwards struggles matter. Anthony Edwards is struggling right now, and fans and media are being really critical of Anthony Edwards. It's giving you a glimpse into the future. It proves that growth isn't linear. Even with great stars, man, it just takes time. Look at Steph Curry. Look at Michael Jordan. All this stuff takes time. JJ McCarthy hasn't played it down yet, but faces pressure to succeed immediately. People aren't going to come out and say it, but I know that's where most Minnesota Viking fans are. JJ McCarthy has to produce immediately. If he doesn't, you are going to have, here's how sensitive this is. You are going to have fans and some media members. If JJ McCarthy, let's say he comes out and he lays an egg the first 3 games of the season, there will already be some people that will call him a bust. Now, it's okay to be disappointed if that happens. I don't think that's going to happen. By the way, I picked the Minnesota Vikings to at least go 4-1, 5-0 in those first 5 games. But let's say, for the sake of conversation, that things don't go well for those first 2 to 3 games. You're going to have some fans and media members that are going to come out and say, he's a bust already. Already. I mean, if Anthony Edwards is still learning on the job at 23, imagine the adjustments JJ will need at 22, playing quarterback, one of the toughest positions to play in the world in the NFL. Like, we as Minnesota Viking fans, we've got to expect the ups and downs, man. I'm seeing it with Anthony Edwards, and he's got multiple years in the league, and he is one of the faces of the league right now. You could say that he's definitely top 5 in the league. And that's being conservative. Most people have him as 1, 2, or 3. But just to be safe, he's top 5 in the league. I mean, expecting perfection for J.J. McCarthy is an early setup for disappointment. And I was watching the Minnesota Timberwolves game last night and Anthony Edwards, and I thought, man, Anthony Edwards has been so great for multiple years. Led the NBA in three-pointers made this year. One of the top scorers in the league, MVP of the Minnesota Timberwolves team. And yet, in moments like last night, when he comes up a little bit short, there is a lot of criticism towards Anthony Edwards. My only criticism towards Anthony Edwards is, man, be 23, be who you are, be great, be good. But you can't keep putting yourself on such a pedestal. Like saying, hey, when he was on the Olympic team, hey, run the offense through me. When you got all these greats and you're saying the offense should be ran through me, and then you get in these moments and you don't show up, you either have to respond to your words or keep your mouth closed and just play and just develop. It can't be both. It can't be both. Anthony Edwards needed 3 full seasons before even sniffing playoff success. What are the expectations of J.J. McCarthy? Playoffs, rookie year? Definitely playoffs next year. And he better make the playoffs the year after that. Like, that's the expectations of J.J. McCarthy. Here's an example for you, man. Josh Allen was inaccurate, inconsistent for 2 seasons with the Buffalo Bills. Remember that? Coming out of Wyoming, people were talking about he can't throw the football. And then his first couple years in the league, man, he was all over the place. Throwing interceptions, turning the ball over. Man, look at Josh Allen now. Think about Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, sat the bench. We can even go to our team. Look at Jets, man. Look at Jets. Justin Jefferson didn't have a 100-yard game immediately when he started playing for the Minnesota Vikings. Man, it just takes time. Growth takes time. And the reason why I'm just putting this out here, man, because the rumblings are starting again, and they're only going to get louder about the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. And I've been very clear. People that want to debate me on it can debate me on it. Whenever someone debates me on where I was with the whole Aaron Rodgers thing and where I was J.J. McCarthy, they always get it wrong, and they never repeat to me what I said. I said the Minnesota Vikings would be stupid not to entertain the thought or have a conversation about Aaron Rodgers. If they didn't do that with the team that's set in place, it would be NFL, pro football malpractice. But I supported the move to have J.J. McCarthy be our QB1. And I'm ready to roll with J.J. McCarthy. But I'm ready to roll with J.J. McCarthy without super high expectations. Man, if J.J. McCarthy comes out and balls and has the top passer rating in the league and throws for 40 touchdowns and leads us to a Super Bowl, you know I'm there, man. You know I'm right there. I'm right there. But the league has shown for several years, many, many years the NFL has been in place. It has shown that the blueprint for a rookie quarterback to get to the Super Bowl is one that they're still searching for. It just doesn't happen a lot. Almost happened last year with the Commanders. But again, I came up a little bit short. It doesn't happen a lot. So I'm just trying to get UP Nation, Purple Gang, Skull Nation, Minnesota Vikings Nation. I'm just trying to get you mentally prepared to not shoot over the moon. Enjoy the season. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be box office. But have a little bit of patience with the young man. Have a little bit of patience for our franchise quarterback. Have a little bit of, don't, after one bad game, don't turn on him. Like all the heat that Anthony Edwards is getting, I understand the frustration, but he's 23 years old. Timberwolves fans, 23 years old. So I don't know whether his shortcomings are because he's just not mature yet. I don't know if he has certain deficiencies in his game. I don't know if you can defend him a certain way and that just takes him out of his element. I don't know because he's 23. And he's got a lot of maturing that he has to do. I disagree with him during his post-game comments last night where he said, man, we're going to be all right. I don't think you're going to be all right this year. It kind of all depends on what you mean by being all right. If being all right, meaning your future is bright with the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm right there with you. But if you're talking about being all right, the way things are playing out right now, the way you are playing, I don't think you're going to be all right against the OKC Thunder. I don't see the Minnesota Timberwolves coming back and winning this series. I just don't. I don't see a pathway currently playing the way you're playing with the mindset that you're playing with. I think next year, and I've said this, the Minnesota Vikings are a playoff team. I think they make the playoffs. But when you get into the playoffs, we all know this, man, that playoff, that's just a whole nother level of football. It's just a whole nother level of football. And then if the Minnesota Vikings were to make the playoffs, there's a whole nother level of criticism waiting for KOC. Because now if KOC doesn't win that game, he becomes a coach that has a high offensive IQ when it comes. He's the quarterback whisperer, whatever narrative you want to make. But if he loses that playoff game with the rookie quarterback, there will be no mercy. It will be KOC can't win the big games. J.J. McCarthy comes up short. And the way that we should be approaching this, UP Nation, is just have a little bit level of patience for a head coach that's going into his fourth season, has done a pretty good job, but still has some things that he's got to figure out. And a very talented, smart quarterback in J.J. McCarthy who's doing all the right things. But if you start throwing a level of vitriol towards J.J. McCarthy as he's trying to cut his teeth and learn a little bit, that could be devastating to a kid that has a bright future. So this is all about patience, man. This is all about patience. Watching the Minnesota Timberwolves game last night, I thought about J.J. McCarthy. There are direct parallels between the two. 23 years old, carrying the franchise, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Odds are by this time next year, you can say the same thing about J.J. McCarthy. This has been Unconventional Playbook, man. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Takes a minute to hit the like and subscribe button. It just takes a minute. Please hit it. Helps me with the algorithm, helps me to continue to pump out the content that I pump out to you. I really enjoy talking to all the nations out there. Purple Gang, UP Nation, Minnesota Vikings Nation, Skull Nation. Whatever group you belong to, I enjoy pumping out the content for you. And as always, UP Nation, we will see you when we see you. Skull.